what people don't understand, the importance of blood drives again, is whereas with a blood transfusion, you might have 3 or 4 units. You know, with a blood exchange, you can have like 8 units or more. You know, we use a lot more blood when it comes to blood exchanges, which is why we really need the African Caribbean, the African, West African, East African, even everybody, if you're from the African continent or of the African diaspora.
The diaspora, yeah.
It's very important. And you know, you're looking at me and...
Affinity Xtra, be extra.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and do not necessarily represent the views of Affinity Xtra.
Yeah, people, it's your boy here, Roger Moore, on Affinity Xtra Celebrating Gospel our Black Origin, and this is how we do it still, yeah. You know how we do it, man. This is the Edge Show, and you know, guys, you ready? You sure you ready for this still, yeah? So, I have gone through a journey where I had to kind of beat myself up because, you know, I look after myself and ting. It comes to that time when I'm going, you know what? It's okay talking about what you want to do with the community and other things like that. Myself, I grew up with epilepsy and had to take medication, so giving blood wasn't really an option. But I'm off medication now, and you know, I've got no excuses, man. You know, but the key thing is, I just didn't want to just give blood. I wanted everybody to hear my journey about understanding about why we give blood. One of the key factors I thought just donating is for somebody who has an accident and they need blood for blood and whatever. And what I've grown to understand coming up to my 50s, just coming to the true understanding of, man, that we have a situation, I would dare say a serious situation called sickle cell, which needs our blood in our community, and we are not even programmed and understand from young. And I think this is the important, is for people to know from young how and why we should be giving our blood. So, you know, we just have this natural ability to not want to give anything. You know what I'm saying? You know, and we want to plead the blood. We want to do everything. We want to do everything about the blood. We want to preach about the blood, but we do not want to give blood. So, and at the same time, there's good practice. So we had a great interview with A-Star, a good friend of mine of the past, over the years of doing as a rapper. And I must admit, after that conversation I had, him really challenged me in terms of the number of what we're doing, and the number of black people that do have sickle cell is absolutely crazy. When I say and understanding thalassemia as well, you know, my family's from I got from my family that I'm not only African descent but also Mediterranean descent as well. So there is, you know, you just take certain things for granted and not realize that, you know what, still we need to check some things out. So after learning over, I was minding my own business, walking through the jewelry quarter. Anybody who knows jewelry quarter in Birmingham, and I saw a sign that I ain't seen for about 20-30 years on the wall. And I'll be honest with you, and I go, hold on, isn't that I'm a visual man, and I'm like, I ironically just did an interview with somebody about sickle cell, and Oscar's there. I was like, what on earth, man? So there's me jumping onto the site, going, who do I contact? Then I accidentally said, oh yeah, I'm sure back in the day, man, there's a dude that I know from back in the day, I'm sure. Oh, let me reach out to him. So I spoke to a brethren, you know what I'm saying, to reach out to the guy. Sorry guys, my boot up's so crazy, you know what I'm saying, and I have to set the scene. And then, yeah man, AJ man, I'm sure. So reached out, AJ hit back quick, man, you know what I'm saying. Then AJ decides we're just catching up, man, you know, talking about, let's get an interview hooked up. And I didn't realize he knows his guys. Not only knows his guys, he's actually active within OSCAR Birmingham, which is almost going, you know what? Do I blame God? Do I say I'm an amazing guy? Do you blame karma? I don't know. But anyway, we just blame God. That's how we do it out here, yeah? We blame God for it. But either way, we're going to have a great conversation. God's willing, guys, you know, about, you know, not AJ from a personal journey, because I think there's a few questions I want to ask yourself, AJ, which really people just really need to understand the journey of a personally, and I think we don't know enough. We don't testify of that journey enough with sickle cell, and what Oscar's doing, what Oscar is doing within the community, because we don't see them that much publicly from a non-sickle cell perspective. Maybe they do, well, I'm sure they're doing loads of stuff here. I can tell from the website, but maybe it's a case of doing that. And what are the restrictions and what's holding things back? This is not, again, a thing to bash the national health system. We're going to talk about how we can do better with partnership with the health system. But there's nothing we can bash if we don't give blood. It's like this moaning about Labour if he didn't vote. What's the point? He never voted, so just hush your noise. So if we don't give blood, hush your noise. Yeah? So that's how we do it, man. So stop money about NHS. Let's give our blood and whatsoever. So listen, I'm going to kick off now. I'm going to finally get into... I did warn him, I'm going to chat too much. Well, is my guy AJ... No, AJ, like, bro, like, I'm sure we was in our late 20s and stuff like that. So when I bumped into
you... It's been a good 25, 30 years.
Yeah, man.
Like, just in community.
Yeah, man.
Even in church circles. So...
Yeah.
Anyway, my name's AJ. My name is AJ Dattani. I am a theatre director and producer, former youth worker, former actor. I'm actually technically medically retired, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Due to health problems and how my condition has really changed my life as I've gotten older. So, and I'm also the chairman of OSCAR Birmingham.
Wow. He didn't tell me that part, it's a chair, Oh my God. I have to behave myself,
It's all right.
Yo,
listen, it's not the first time I've come on a show and people have got things to say about OSCAR Birmingham. And sometimes I let people go in it. And I've heard people like slewing me.
Oh, you're joking.
But they don't know that I'm the man, and it's fine because there's been times over that I've been on the board for quite some time. It's actually, I came on board as a patient representative,
of course.
back in 2002.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I've always been, through the slumps, because every time there's a recession in the UK, it affects
of course,
charities and the voluntary sector services, and it hits us first. So there's been times where we've had dips in funding.
Of course,
we've not been as visible. People were used to the organization being highly visible, especially in the 80s and 90s.
That's what I know.
Then we got to a point where when I came on the board, some of myself and some of the other board members, we decided to tone down some of the flashy stuff, because we would have our annual dinners and black tie, galas, and those things are good. But sometimes, as a small charity, you can spend so much on a great night, and it may not raise as much funds as you would like. So it's not always worth it.
Effective.
It's always, for us, we felt logistically, just financially, it was better to funnel all of that money towards our frontline services.
Okay.
So that's why, you'll always see us chipping away in the background. We're never short of clients. We're always hitting our client base. So even if you don't hear, all the bells and whistles, the adverts on the radio stations, and you may not always see us in the media, in the office now, we have so many services. We're always supporting all of our young people, our older patients and clients. We support a lot of our carers and parents. So, on average, like when it comes to carers and parents, we're supporting like 150 carers and parents per year. We have a new turnover. We have approximately... let me go into stats.
Yeah, go, hit the stats, man. No, it's good to know. And by the guys, we can blame God now. Now I've got the chair in here. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I wanted OSCAR Birmingham in the room. You know what I'm saying? And I just found out we've got OSCAR Birmingham in the room. Yo, this is nice. By the way, I'm a chair's a few things myself.
I never told you on purpose. You called me and you said you wanted to hear about my journey living with sickle cell. And I'm not gonna lie. I actually don't talk about my own life enough. And part of that is because I kind of stepped back from sharing some of my journey because, look, for people who know me in the community, for those who haven't seen me before, I have given my testimony in front of churches, at mosque, at synagogues, at Lions clubs, Rotary club, all time. And every time I say I'm not going to cry, you know. But I think when it comes to testimony and people talking about what they've overcome, there's always going to be a point where you might touch a memory. And on a normal day, you can talk about it. But in that moment, all of a sudden, everything comes back, that emotion, memory. So for me, I started to invite other patients to come and talk about their experience. And that leaves me to just talk about who we are, OSCAR Birmingham, what we do, what we deliver. So,
but we're gonna go for your person.
I agreed because it was you. Because when I got that email in my inbox, you know, through our mutual friend, I was like, raw, man, like Roger from back in the day.
You guys must be joking.
And I was like, all right, then cool. You know, let's do this. And obviously, it's more laid back. I would normally kind of try and be speaky, spokey all the way through anything to do with OSCAR Birmingham because, you know, we have to carry ourselves well. And we have a great name. We have a great brand. We are 52 years old this year. We've been around a long time. And it's important for us to understand the people who came before us. Because a lot of our founding members of OSCAR, before there was even an OSCAR Birmingham, before there was a Sickle Cell Society and all the other sister organizations, they all came out of the same group of pioneers, that Windrush generation.
Wow.
You know, these are our people who really, at that time when NHS services wasn't really as geared towards care for people with sickle cell and thalassemia, you know, that generation, they were really passionate. You know, some of them were carers or parents of children with sickle cell. So their families were touched by the illness and they got together and they would host each other, you know, because some of them came from different cities. And if you know anything about small charities or even small churches, in the Windrush generation, a lot of our services started in someone's front room.
100%.
You know, so they would host, whether it's in Birmingham, London, Leicester, Bristol, Nottingham, they would host each other. They would strategize how we're going to get this off the ground. So the organization for sickle cell anemia came out of that.
But you know what, guys? This is crazy because I'm a very historical person. So I don't want to miss like the fact that basically sickle cell isn't a modern condition. Now, so people from the Caribbean came over with sickle cell, you know what I mean, into an environment which is physically probably worse than back home. Technically, you know what I mean, not so warm and whatever and whatsoever. So people coming over with sickle cell, I'm not saying they couldn't diagnose or whatever, but they had sickle cell coming over. Now, you're staring at racism in on a real next level, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, still next level now. But anyway, so at a blatant, to support each other in that time before mobile phones and even access to phones. You know what I'm saying? Before internet, groups and whatever, to actually to assemble and to support each other in terms of not only it's almost like sharing notes. What have you done? And, you know, and actually supporting each other. I sit down and thinking, and I, you know, you say, I'm coming up to 50, and I'm thinking about just before I was born. I remember when I was younger, OSCAR, I recognise the name 1000% from when I was younger. You know, I know they came to my church one time. I went to the same church we were all baptized in, but like Wesley Honest, and I'll never forget. A lady was giving a talk about sickle cell. That's the only time I've seen a talk on sickle cell in public. And I'm 50, black man in a city for the black people. And that's the only time I sat down as a 13-year-old, listened to a lady talk about sickle cell. And that was my limited education until I set up the platform and spoke to people about it and do podcasts. I'm like, wow, but I should know. And the only time it came to me is when my wife said, listen, have you got the trait? Trait what? What are you about? I got thalassemia. It's what traits have you got? I have no trait. What are you chatting about, man? I don't know. But then when you think about it, hold on a second. If you got the trait, Roger, we can't. If I got thalassemia trait and you got a sickle cell trait, that's a very awkward situation for the child having a child. So you got all these things and throwing to me, but I weren't educated in it, bro. So,
well, unbeknownst to you, my journey. My mother is Jamaican born. She came to England as a baby. My father, Ugandan born, came over.
Okay.
When, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coming over here, taking all our jobs.
Yeah.
But, I think, my mother carries the sickle cell gene.
Okay.
She's a carrier. That's what we call the trait. For
yeah.
those who carry the gene, we call that the trait. And it means that you're unaffected by the condition. You just carry the genetic, abnormality.
Yeah.
And it can be given to a child. My father has the thalassemia gene.
What?
So my version
Sorry,
of sickle
people,
cell.
that doesn't rule reaction by the people. Yeah. Yo, I just spoke about it, and
So I have a sickle cell disorder, which is really where, I've inherited the sickle cell gene from my mum, the thalassemia gene from my father, and in combination, it's caused a sickle cell disorder. Now, when you carry the gene, for those who might be thinking about family planning, or you're trying to understand what it means to be a carrier, really it's about knowing your status. Now, since for a long time now, we've had national prenatal screening. When you get pregnant, you're screened. I mean, everyone in the UK is screened for blood disorders, but specifically sickle cell and thalassemia. So you will know. But if you say you wanted to know your status beforehand, before you even start fam, you don't want to wait until you get pregnant to then go, I didn't realize. And that was what was happening to our,
that generation.
No one had the
access or
just the understanding.
True.
It's not like my mom and my dad were vetting each other for genetic blood disorders. People just used to get together, make love, and there comes a baby. You know what I mean?
True.
And there was, people are too busy courting, dating, and being in love. So, when we come along, when we the child, there's for every time you as a carrier partner with someone else who's also a carrier, there's a 1 in 4 chance that your child could be born with sickle cell. Now, 1 in 4 sounds like it's not.
It's a risk worth taking.
Here's the thing.
Go on. I just said it loud. Sorry.
Historically, we've supported families. That every one of their children was born with the full-blown disorder, and then sometimes it may be that you have 3-4 children and none of them are affected. They might inherit the gene, but not have the full disorder. So, the 1 in 4 is, it's really up there. It's what we've narrowed it down to, clinically. But in reality, it's important to know our status, and it's not to scare anyone. If you do carry the gene, the reality is if you have a child in 2026, we have such, our healthcare system has changed so much. We've got so much access to new medications and new care pathways that cause us to stay healthier for longer. So you don't have to, worry and think, oh my Lord, I carry the gene and what's going to happen? I'm not going to be able to have no children. No. For people like me who have had a hard journey, I can still, with faith, say, don't be scared. Just because my journey, your child won't necessarily have the same journey as me. And interestingly, funny enough, I used to do a lot of work with children who were transitioning from the Children's Hospital
Okay.
to adult care at
Okay.
Birmingham City Hospital, which is now the Midland Metropolitan Hospital.
Yeah, man.
And I remember going in my last group that I ever worked with, which was just before the pandemic. And I was sharing all of these painful stories about living with sickle cell and what I've been through. And the young people could not relate, because we've got a new generation of young people who, through good healthcare, some of them have actually never experienced a painful crisis.
Wow.
So,
wow.
you know, and obviously they are not anomalies, but they are a small group of young people, new generation of people with sickle cell who are living well with sickle cell, not having hospital admissions, not having all these other side effects. But, you know, before we go further, it's important to talk about what sickle cell is.
No.
We've been
let's go on
talking
there.
about
Yeah,
on the assumption that everyone knows.
No,
what sickle cell
you want
is.
to break it down.
Yeah.
But just to reiterate something that you just said before we go into the definition, something that, and I'm gonna hit out old wives' tales that hit my head.
Yeah.
And I say, forgive me, wives, because I would bring you in, but it's an old time saying, yeah. But I remember when I was younger, and I remember that talk. I knew somebody in my church that had sickle cell, and there was an assumption that the person would die by the time they turned 30 as well. You know what I'm saying? And so what you're saying here, there's a lot of people thinking, oh, okay, these, you know what I mean? And it's like, there are assumptions, but when you're seeing, because of modern care, it's a lot more different life. But there was almost a case of when you're talking about 80s now and 90s knowledge, you know, is a lot more different. So just reiterate that. But no, let's hear your definition, because everybody says what sickle cell is in their way. You say in a way what you, as chair of OSCAR.
Well, I'm not going to give like a very deep clinical breakdown, but I'm going to give it in a way that people can understand.
Go for it.
So, sickle cell is, you know, it's normally portrayed as a black condition, you know, here in the UK and especially in Birmingham, i.e. people of African descent, African Caribbean people. But actually, you know, in sickle cell, within our services, we see a lot of, well, not so much, but other parts of the world, you know, in parts of India, some of the indigenous groups in India do also have the sickle cell gene.
Okay.
And, you know, we have a kind of broad spectrum of different groups who also carry the gene. So it's, you know, it's something that on the face of it looks like it's a black condition, but it's a global condition.
Oh.
Similarly with thalassemia.
Okay.
In Birmingham, you know, it was always associated with the South Asian community, you know, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, because when you go into our sickle cell and thalassemia services, you'll always see, you know, the South Asian.
Okay.
But, you know, for me, it was a shock when I was younger, when I'd go to thalassemia events in London, and they're predominantly, you know, Cypriot and
that's how I know.
So a lot of white
know.
Mediterranean people
Yeah.
have thalassemia.
Wow.
Which for me back then was like, oh my Lord, I thought
Yeah.
it was only a South Asian condition.
Yeah.
Because that's what we see in our services because of our you know, migration, our makeup of the Birmingham population. We've become way more diverse now.
Yeah.
So when you go to the Sickle Cell and Thalassemia Centre at Midland Metropolitan, you will see South Asians, West Africans, African Caribbean, as well as Chinese, and as well as, you know, white patients. So again, it really shows how, you know, these two red blood cell disorders affect people globally. It's not just conditions that affect people of color.
Yeah.
Now, I already talked about, you know, if two people come together, you carry the gene, you know, the 1 in 4, and the reality of 1 in 4. The importance of screening, really, you know, being tested, you can be referred to your GP, by your GP to the community team, who can really just take it's a very quick blood test. It's nothing big, but it's also important to know your blood type, because especially for the blood drives, if you're interested in giving blood, you know, we are really calling for people from our own community, Black and South Asian people who have the RO subtype. because everybody knows about blood types, and you know, if you know your blood type, whether you're A,
That's a
AB,
good point.
O positive.
That's a good point.
But the
Yeah.
subtype
Yeah.
is what makes it more, you know, we need more of that kind of blood, because for people with sickle cell and thalassemia, there are a lot of patients who are blood transfusion dependent. Now, more so with the thalassemia patients. I'll get into that in a moment. But, you know, when you're blood transfusion dependent, you're probably having one blood transfusion every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks. And when you have a blood transfusion, you may have 3 units, 4 units. So that's like 3-4 bags of blood. Now, over a long period of time, your body can kind of start to
Get immune to it.
well, in a way, because a lot of the supply in our blood banks is from the general public, and you know, it may be that a lot of our blood banks are more stocked with English
Soft
blood,
yeah.
and
Sorry.
you know,
Soft blood.
you know,
yeah.
and it's always better if we have access to blood with our same RO subtype. You know, they will have less reactions. You know, over the years, I've had many reactions when having blood transfusions where it's not like I've become severely unwell, but you know, just that reaction, because again, it's always more acceptable for African Caribbean or African people to receive blood from the African community, and so on, you know, South Asian and so on.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody has their subtype. So
I'm gonna say so. I'm gonna check out my blood type.
Yeah.
I probably I always do blood tests with my bit. So I just gotta go into my medicine, my app on my phone, my medical app. That should be in there, innit?
On your NHS file.
Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah. So I want to check it. So I'll go, say for example, type, I'm gonna totally mess this up by the way, people. AA or whatever it is. Yeah. It's a A. I'm saying A. Obviously, you know me. A something.
A positive.
A positive.
AB,
yeah. A cool.
B.
If you want to, but there's another subsetting which called R type. Was it
The
R?
RO subtype.
Okay, cool.
And
That's separate to the
again,
A.
you know, when you go to any blood drive, any event, they will just a quick thumb prick, or they'll take a bit of blood and they can give you a result on the spot.
Oh snap! Is that easy?
They'll tell you what your subtype is,
Cool.
and if you have it, and so on.
Cool.
And if you do, they're going to pounce on you, because they're going to want you to give as much blood as you can.
I smile, you know, because you know, as man looking fresh still, you know, I might have some R type in me still, you know, superior blood. But anyway, so we go.
So, in layman terms, thalassemia is really, it's like the quantity, the underproduction of healthy red blood cells, causing anemia and deterioration of the organs in some bad cases. A lot of people with thalassemia have severe anemia, severe fatigue, as the body cannot produce enough to replenish. It's why there's a need for blood transfusions. When you have a blood transfusion, it's like a renewal of energy. You know, and that kind of that vitality and that renewal of energy, staving off that anemia and fatigue, will last for maybe four weeks. But you know, some friends by week 3 they're feeling like they're dipping again, and you know, that final week where they're waiting for their next blood transfusion, they'll be feeling you know, really tired and really, you know. But in some countries where they don't have access to, you know, say an NHS service, and they don't have access to you know, they can't afford monthly blood transfusions through private healthcare, you will see the deterioration is quite rapid, actually, you know. And over a period of time, you can start to have a lot of, you know, organ damage, a lot of other health problems. And similarly with sickle cell now, it's more about the quality, the production of unhealthy red blood cells causing anemia and chronic pain. Now with sickle cell, you know, we all have, everybody knows, red blood cells are perfectly circular.
Yeah, cool.
They flow through the veins and the capillaries, you know, flow through your arteries smoothly. For people with sickle cell, the red blood cells, as they flow, when they give up their hemoglobin is the molecule within red blood cells that retains the oxygen.
Okay.
So you breathe in, the gas
Mm.
transfer happens in your lungs. That oxygen transfers into the hemoglobin in your red blood
Okay,
cells.
cool.
Your blood cells flow around the body.
Sweet.
And get oxygen to everywhere
Everybody.
that's needed. But once the hemoglobin has given up the oxygen, for some reason, you can have red blood cells start to almost mutate and become sickle shaped. Hence, that's where we get the word sickle from.
Yeah.
So when the red blood cells become, sickle shaped, or for those who don't know what a sickle is, like new moon shaped,
New moon,
a new moon.
Yeah, new moon, yeah.
They don't flow as well through the veins and capillaries and so on. So where there is think of it like, say,
Pile
a congregation,
it's like a blockage, isn't it? Yeah,
sickle cells, it creates an immense pain. For young babies, you might see swelling in joints.
Is it like cramping or something like that?
Well, it's
not like in pain, but it's like.
I mean, no.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say yes, but
extreme
actually
version,
no.
but okay, cool.
Because it's more extreme than that.
The
pain within joints and.
So it's not just in the flesh; it's in the bones.
It's in muscle, in joints, it's anywhere. And because red blood cells travel around your whole body, so no part of your body is exempt. This is what messes me up. For people with thalassemia, that fatigue is not. It's not just a mental or that physical fatigue. It's everywhere because your red blood cells are everywhere. That extreme anemia, that painful feeling that you get from anemia, because although the pain is different between thalassemia patients and sickle cell patients, there are some things that are the same. Painful anemia. Even as a person with sickle cell, even when I'm not having a painful sickle cell crisis, which a crisis is when the sickle cells have become overwhelming, where there's too many sickle cells and not enough healthy red blood cells. The balance is, so when you are in severe pain from, sickle cells becoming overwhelming, that's what we term a sickle crisis. So, but even when you're not in extreme pain, having a sickle crisis, you can be suffering from daily joint pain, daily pain, from that kind of anemia, that fatigue, and that smaller sickling. It might not be as overwhelming, but it may be that your joints are just in pain, but it's not extreme enough for you to be admitted into hospital for pain management, but it still affects your life. So for me, myself, when I was born, for the first 3 years, no one knew I had sickle cell, and part of that is to do with when a newborn baby is born, in the womb, you are producing fetal hemoglobin. It's like a young hemoglobin. That same molecule we was talking about in the red blood cells that holds the oxygen. So the fetal hemoglobin will normally, babies will keep producing fetal hemoglobin until about 2-3 years old. After that, they will start to produce normal adult hemoglobin. Now, when that happens, that's when we start to see babies who have sickle cell start to display symptoms. Because it's at that point where they're starting to have more sickle cells in the body, having more sickling and more pain. And for me, back in the, I was going to say the era I come from.
You might as well, because we're both from the same name here.
No, we're not. I can't hide it anymore. You know the thing is, I'm so great. I can't hide it anymore.
Listen,
with a clean shave, no one knows. But now it is what it is.
It is what it is, bro.
In the 80s,
yeah, man, come on and preach it, bro.
In the 80s,
When we were ramping,
when I was diagnosed,
how old was he? Sorry. Shave. But it's so it 10 years away. But how, can you remember being diagnosed?
Oh no, I was a baby. So what was happening is my mum would be bringing me into hospital. Back in those days, we lived in a part of Birmingham called Ladywood. Back then, the children's hospital was literally
right the corner,
a few minutes walk up the road.
Man.
It was on the Ladywood Midway.
Yeah, man.
And my mum would bring me to casualty, well, A&E, what we call it now, every other day because as a baby I would be crying, I would be having swollen joints, my hands would be ballooning up, but sometimes by the time I would get to A&E, the symptoms would kind of subside. So the doctors were treating my mother like she was, well, you know, just an overprotective parent or crying wolf in essence. They didn't really take her serious. It wasn't until around 3 years old I developed like a cyst on the back of my hand. I mean, no one else is going to see this, but that scar on the back of my hand is where I had this. There was such sickling within my hand. It created a kind of a growth. And now imagine as a baby, my hand was very small. And the growth was bigger than my small baby hand. And when they operated and surgically removed it, they did tests, and that was how they found out I have sickle cell. So this was before we had prenatal screening. You know, for those of us born before prenatal screening and having all these advances where we can know in advance what our child potentially has. Back then, it was what it was. You were born, and if you developed any symptoms, that's when you'd find out. So for me, from that point forward, I spent all of my childhood in and out of hospital. I practically lived more in the children's hospital than I lived at home. I had so many painful sickle crises. Like, you know, I've had acute chest syndrome. I've had sickling in my eyes where I've had multiple surgeries. I had enlarged spleen because of sickling within the spleen. I had my spleen removed. I've had multiple surgeries before the age of 16. And it was really
crazy,
a difficult time, not just for me as the person going through all that pain, but also for my family, because, you know, the way that having a child with a long-term disability, a chronic illness can affect the family. You know, for my mom, she couldn't work because there was, you know, I would spontaneously just...
Did you have other siblings, by the way?
At that time, I didn't have any siblings. My sisters came much later. Okay. And they're unaffected by the condition. They have a different father. My mom remarried. And so for people living with the condition, it's not just something that affects the child, the person. It also affects the surrounding family. You know, so for us, you know, through that time, it was a hard time financially as well.
Yeah, of course.
Having to, you know, not being able to work, not being able to generate money to live a better quality of life. But we were also blessed at the same time, as much as it was hard. I mean, you know, like I said earlier, if I talk about it too much, I'd probably start, the waterworks are going to come on. I'm going to be like, ooh, it's going to mess up your whole thing.
No, man. Yo, we edgy, bro. We're cool, man. We're cool.
You know, I know, you know, the amount of surgeries and, you know, the amount of times that my mum watched me go through those doors with the potential that I was never coming back at times, you know, and the impact on the emotional health, you know, the spiritual health of the family. You know, there's a lot of, it can either go two ways. You can become almost faithless, hopeless, helpless, or you can just have that resilience where it's like, you know, I'm going to make it through. And what you was talking about earlier, where the myth of us not living that long. Well, actually, it was partly a myth and partly not.
Okay, cool.
So for those who were born with the condition,
probably back in the 60s and 50s,
have it as extreme as I did, or I have, you know, it's still ongoing. You know, for those of us who we were trapped in that revolving door of hospital care. Okay. We're the more extreme examples. And then you have people who have sickle cell, like, you know, my younger cousin, he also has the condition too. But he has less hospital admissions than me. He has less painful crisis. Not that he doesn't go through hardships himself, but in comparison, way less.
They're varying degrees.
And then, you know, my example of the young people that I was speaking to, where I met like 5 young people who just could not relate. And there was a part of me that felt like, oh my God, what's going on here? But then when I left and I reflected, I was like, so glad. And I think that gladness came from a place of, you know, this is something you would, you know, you never want your child to have to go through this level of pain. And so, yeah, you know, my childhood up until the age of 12, it was hard.
So,
but then what changed?
Okay, go on.
It's going to come into,
yeah.
It's coming into alignment with where you want to go.
Yeah.
Now, at the age of 12,
go on.
My hematologist recommended that I go on to monthly blood transfusions.
Okay, 12. Okay, cool.
So
this is in 90s, yeah?
Yeah,
cool.
So
Don't
I
smash
started blood transfusions,
yeah.
and the change.
Come on now.
For me, bear in mind, you know, I've always been short. You know me. Everybody knows in Birmingham. AJ, the short guy. I've always been short for my age. I had delayed puberty because of how much my body was going through. So, and you know, that can happen to a lot of people with thalassemia and sickle cell, where because your body is going through so much and just battling every day, you may have delayed growth. You may not, you know, reach. Some people even have, you know, don't reach their full potential. And for me, once I started blood transfusions, I was I was different.
Yeah.
Like, to the point, I used and abused it. You know, I had a newfound strength. Like, I wasn't having as many painful crises.
So was you on medication before that?
Well, there wasn't anything at that time that could help prevent or reduce the amount of sickle cell. So for me, my triggers were things like cold. And like my body just could not take the cold. If I was in a cold environment, it would trigger a sickle crisis.
Okay.
Back in the day, we never used to have heated swimming baths. So I used to go to Handsworth swimming baths on the weekend. It was the water. Remember, the water was cold in the 80s.
Yeah.
I never learned to swim because of that. Because every time I visited the swimming baths, I would end up in hospital. I would literally come home. On the way home, it would be instantaneous. The cold and the way it would trigger me. Things like any small, I say blunt force trauma, that sounds over the top. But you know when you hit your elbow on something.
So you couldn't play football or anything?
Listen, I was weak. I was frail. I was the most unathletic kid in my neighborhood.
So how was your... So bear in mind you're in and out of hospital. Now, we're going to school similar times anyway. When you were at school, we were at school, yeah? Probably been at school once a week or twice a week. Is it?
Yeah, I'd have so much time off school. You know, they would send work to the hospital.
So did you have any friends from school?
I didn't really. I did.
Yeah.
But they weren't deep, meaningful relationships because I wasn't there to build those types of relationships. I think I was just very blessed to come from a big Jamaican family where, you know, I've got bare cousins. And, you know what I'm saying? And so it's not like how I needed friends per se. And I did have friends, but they weren't as, you know, it wasn't like I had a best friend. You know what I'm saying? So the impact on my life, even on that level, you know, so where was I? I'm going off.
You was talking about, like, you know, obviously I had your transfusions and so on, and at least the life it was bringing you, and you're coming now.
So as a teenager, the blood transfusions almost launched me into puberty. I had a new appetite. You know, if you spoke to my mom, she would tell you how I don't eat anything because I didn't eat anything as a child. I just had a poor appetite. All of a sudden, I'm eating down the place. I've got this new growth, and I'm still like short and skinny. But listen, I'm better than I was before. So, you know, that new growth, that new energy, I could go swimming. I couldn't swim, or I could at least go in the pool without going to hospital. You know, simple things that you take for granted. You know, anyone who used to ride BMXs, we used to have metal pedals. Remember the metal bear track pedals? You know, remember when you used to slip, when your foot used to slip off the
it's
pedal
a-
and it
it's
spin
a-
round and hit you in your shin?
Yeah, cool.
Jesus, listen, the amount of times that I would have a problem on my bike, hit my
Slip.
shins, I'm in crisis.
No.
I'm at home. I'm in bed for the next 7-8 days.
No.
Yeah, it just been pumped full of pain relief and
No.
yeah, simple things would trigger me. That's why my childhood was so hard. So imagine at 12, 13, having this newfound strength. I'm really sorry to say, you know, for anyone who knows me or my family, if anyone watches, yeah, I was a really horrible kid. I all of a sudden became, I wouldn't go so far as to say bully, but I just, all that pain
You kind
that
of
I was going through throughout
pushed.
them years.
You pushed.
I just put it on other kids. I just was horrible. And I was still a joker. I was still fun, but we were living in a really mad time. And I went to a school that was going through a season of taking in a lot of hard to reach young people. You know, this was at the,
Can I take 3 guesses now, John?
I don't want to. You know what? I don't want to say call the school out because
yeah.
I have since worked in that school,
Okay, cool.
and they have done so well to turn, you know, their school around. And
I could guess it's school. That's why you said.
well, you know, we're talking about an era
still
in
open, yeah.
Birmingham
Yeah, man.
where we were having what we call now, you know, urban street gangs. It was the emergence of
madness,
you know,
man.
and so we had everybody, you know,
So you was you like the lyrics, man, where your tongue was sharper than anything else? And you were just,
because I had to be.
Yeah. You couldn't use your fist, but your tongue was
it's
nice,
eat or
man.
be eaten, and everyone's bigger and stronger than me.
Yeah.
Do you know
So
what I'm
your
saying?
tongue is your weapon.
I'm really not trying to go to war with anyone. You know, I'm just, you know, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm stirring the pot. You know, this is really exposing how terrible actually. As a kid, it went to my head, and that good health that I had was a game changer, and it shows you how powerful blood can be.
Wow.
You know, for those of us who are blood transfusion reliant, it really is. You know, I think I'll come back to it later because I think what I wanted to talk about is,
yeah.
you know, the blood transfusion years.
Yeah.
I did miss out. You know, in order for me to back then have blood transfusions, for some people with sickle cell, you know, because you're having a lot of tests, blood transfusions or medications or sometimes drips, just a simple drip to keep you hydrated. Sometimes your veins in your arms, the ones that the nurses are regularly accessing, can kind of become smaller or atrophy away, and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to find a vein on a sickle cell patient, especially those who are in and out of hospital and have regular treatment and having a lot of severe painful crisis. So at that time, it was hard for me to have blood transfusions the regular way. So I had a line put into my chest. I had surgery. I had a vascuport under the surface, under the skin in my chest. And it was really embarrassing at school because it looked like I had like a third nipple.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It was
yeah.
like, so I was very self-conscious. I was already very frail and skinny. And then there's this little lump poking out through my school uniform. But that was where I had all of my medications, my blood transfusions. I had to have, as well as the transfusions, chelation therapy. Now, chelation therapy is where if you're on regular blood transfusions, you are at risk of having iron overload. Because of the excess iron within the blood, it can build up in your body and it can build up in your heart or in your major organs. Now, when it builds up in your heart, you know, I've had friends with thalassemia, really good friends who have passed away because they never really took care of their chelation therapy. Because when you're young, you don't want to be different. You want to be out. You want to be with the other kids, and I think that's really affected a lot of children with sickle cell and thalassemia. You know, not being on top of their medication regime, not being on top of their care, and when that happens, it can be fatal. Like I said, you know, when the iron when the iron builds up to such a point in your heart that it starts to deteriorate and damage parts of your arteries, there's no real coming back from that. So for me, I'm not going to lie, at the time when I was 12, 13, I didn't really understand all this, but I was very vigilant. Nowadays you can get a form of chelation therapy in a tablet.
Okay.
So kids just have to pop the
Pop it
tablet,
up, put it in
they're
there,
good,
yeah.
take
Cool,
it
cool.
regularly, whatnot.
Yeah.
Back then I was mixing my own meds. I used to have to go home, and 1 week out of every month, I would have this home infusion, a syringe that every 12 hours I'd remix the ingredients, put it in, it's battery pump, and it would infuse. I'd have it. It was mad. So at school, I was hiding all of these things. I'd be at school with like an infusion in my pocket. People are thinking it's a Walkman or something. Nah, it was like an infusion pump.
You just want to walk around this.
Yeah, and then as things started to progress,
Wow.
and
Wow.
we had advances in healthcare. We had something which was, it's the same infusion, but it was ready-made and it used to get delivered to my house. But it came in what looked like a baby's bottle, and it was like a balloon in a baby's bottle, and the balloon would perfectly deflate at the right speed and have a continuous 7-day infusion. So I never had to mix my medication every few hours. I mean, back then it was, the one thing I couldn't get away from is I'd still have to move the needle. So if I wasn't having it in my port for that 7 days, I'd have to infuse in the fat of my stomach. Bear in mind, I didn't have any fat in my stomach at the time. So sometimes I was piercing my abs. It was a nightmare. But yeah, so chelation therapy is very important. You know, for those of you who have children with sickle cell or thalassemia, be on top of it. Show them the importance of looking after themselves, you know, because that's how we lengthen our life.
Yeah.
You know, because the myth of us having, you know, high mortality rates in our childhood, it's not really a myth, because a lot of children were passing away from childhood strokes, you know, various other sickle cell related problems. So for me, I was very fortunate that I never had those extremes, even though I was already living an extreme life. But like I said, coming back to the blood transfusions, it was so game changer. Now,
wow,
there came a point.
It's a lot, you know, bro. It's a lot. A lot of information you give me, bro. I'm like,
there came a point where at the age of 16, I went to Jamaica for a holiday. I just so happened to be out there for my 16th birthday. I wasn't doing well at school because my behavior was poor.
okay, cool.
Because of how strong I felt.
Yeah.
Really stupid. So I wasn't expecting to get any GCSEs, and I didn't. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But while I was out there, I caught an infection in my line. So when I came home, I had to cease all treatment. All treatment stopped. I had to have my line removed. I was in surgery for like a good 8 hours. They could not get a new one in place. They tried to get a new one in the other side of my chest. They tried to go through my neck. I've got so many surgical scars across my body. And
wow.
It came to a point where I started to deteriorate again. So I went back from being strong, healthy. You know, I was still having pain, but it was lessened because of the blood transfusions. And but I literally went back to like being in my childhood. So I spent a good 1.5 years in and out of hospital, but more in than out. So I missed my first year of college. And I went through a really difficult time. You know, like I was saying earlier, I sometimes go in and speak to young people who are transitioning from childcare, you know, to adult care, adult hospitals, adult services. For me, my experience was, it was such a horrendous experience, bearing in mind I was going through this period of, you know, no longer having that great health and strength.
Yeah.
Reverting back to my child self. But I'm 17 in a children's hospital. And you're really meant to transition at 16. But they were holding me back just to look after me.
Wow.
But there came a point where I went in for a general appointment
Go on.
for blood test and so on, just a normal appointment. But I was really ill and the nurses could see and they wanted to hold me in and, you know, they wanted to admit me. But there were no beds in the children's hospital at the same time. They were full to capacity. So they were like, listen, we've been preparing for this. You're going to have to transition sooner or later, but it's going to happen now. So they've put me in an ambulance. I've gone to Birmingham City Hospital and it was like a different ball game.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
In children's hospitals, you know, pediatric nurses and, you know, pediatric doctors they're there because they love kids. You know, they've trained in such a way to look after children and be more empathetic to their needs and you know, when you're in a typical children
big man teams, man.
Listen, when you're in a typical children's
yeah,
hospital,
yeah.
you will see things like Disney paintings,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
cartoons,
yeah.
and the walls are different. It's bright colors. The nurses are more. It was nothing like that at City Hospital. It was like I've come into A&E and I was being ignored.
Yeah.
And I went like 5-6 hours with no pain relief. The last pain relief I had was in the ambulance. And then it was like 6 hours of murderous pain and doctors just walking past my bed, ignoring me. I was actually in A&E for about nearly 24 hours before they found me a bed on a ward. So it was a very...
Oh, bro.
It was I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
As I started to learn more, I started to understand that the reason why I was being treated like that was because of this assumption that sickle cell patients only come into A&E for, you know, morphine. You know, they were treating us like substance abusers. So instead of, you know, having our pain relief every 3 to 4 hours or whatever the care pathway is for that particular patient, you know, I was left like 5-6 hours with no pain relief. And again, that kind of presumption that we're all a bunch of, you know, basically drug abusers, it was making, not just for me, a lot of people, you know, a lot of my friends, they were going through the same thing. You know, we hated going to hospital in that time, in that period where the NHS were...
We lack of knowledge.
I don't know. I suppose, am I allowed to say it here? I think it's just the elephant in the room. Racism within the health service.
Yeah.
You know, the level of racism I had to, I was subjected to. I wasn't ready for that because I was coming from a place where the nurses, my doctors, they were so loving, they were so caring, and to end up in an environment where there was no love, there was no care, there was no empathy, it was like, it made me vow to never step foot back in that hospital. Now, did that work out?
Nah. I was like, wait, which part of that?
So, you know, for me, you know, it was really a hard time, but at the same time, just before I left Children's Hospital, they started me on a new medication. At that time, it was new. Back in the late 90s, we had a medication called hydroxyurea. A lot of patients are still on it today, including myself. Now, hydroxyurea is a preventative medication, so I wouldn't go so far. For me personally, I know it's benefited others, but, you know, for some patients, it really works as a preventative medication. And for some people, they have severe reactions. For me, I'm fine. It doesn't stop me from having painful crisis, but it reduces the gap.
Okay.
So I have less.
Well, increases the gap.
Increases the gap. So, you know, so I can go longer without having a painful crisis.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, because I had reverted back to a very bad place, I was really just waiting for death. because it was always going to be that, you know, the more, the less gaps in between painful crisis, the more damage, the more your body's going through. And it's for some of us, it's a losing battle, you know.
Wow.
You can just go downhill really quickly, and it might just be that you were admitted as normal, and then they just find pooling within the liver or within the kidneys, renal problems, heart function problems, and it just becomes so. On top of having painful sickle crisis, you're having all these other things. Now the hydroxyurea for me, wasn't as good as blood transfusions.
Yeah. But it did its thing.
But it did enough for me to be able to put
get
my life back on track. And I never, you know, whereas I said I used and abused the blood transfusion era, I didn't take advantage. This time I was like, you know what? I gotta get my head straight because I've got to get a career. I can't just wither away and die. Even though I had that mentality that I was waiting for death, I equally, because of that painful experience transitioning from childcare to adult care, because I said I will never step foot in that hospital again, it changed me. It made me say, for every day that I have good health, as long as I can get out of bed and walk, stand up, I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity.
Okay.
And that's what I did. So, I suppose I missed out non-health problems. But when I was 13, I was in the youth theatre company. And we were touring and performing all over the UK. And that actually saved my life. Theatre saved my life. Because academically, I have nothing. Even now, you know, even though I went back to college and I studied, because of the way my health would get in the way of my studying, I never actually completed any of my A-levels. I have nothing to my name, although I absorbed all of that information and I was able to make a career out of, you know, theatre. You know, theatre really saved my life. And so I really dived into, I was just in rehearsals. I was no longer messing around, wasn't no longer just hanging around on the streets and just doing stupid things with some of my other friends. I just, like, over the summers, I'm in rehearsals. While everybody's out doing their thing. So, which takes me kind of neatly into my 20s. Now, because of the myth, I was mentally always waiting for death.
Wow.
And I didn't really think I was going to make it to 21. So at the age of 21, I had a massive 21st birthday party.
All right. Body hard.
I'm like, I had a new flat. Like, I just got the keys to the flat. Empty yard. Nothing in there. Sound system. DJ. We're going in. I woke up the next day. I didn't know what to do with myself, because by then it was like I didn't prepare for anything after 21.
Wow.
Like, I mentally wasn't prepared. I didn't know I was going to live that long. And I just sat on the floor in my new flat, looking at all the mess, thinking, oh my God, what's next? Because I had actually already launched a theatre company when I was 19. So, and I was, you know, delivering a lot of theatre and education within schools, pupil referral units. You know, I started up a really good relationship with the NHS sexual health promotion team. Delivering in schools, the drug action teams. But even with all this success and doing well, because I was, you know, even my mum, I know my mum just thought this theatre thing was a phase.
Of course. We know our mums.
But I know that in her heart, she was just glad that I was doing something. And not, you know, laid up in bed in pain. So at 21, I was just really like, I don't know what's next. And I had this experience in church. Bear in mind, I wasn't going to church. I never grew up in a Christian family.
I was gonna ask you, there was no faith No, there's no faith, but there's no.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I never had no faith. I was angry. Like, listen,
No faith, you know.
I was so bad
Yeah.
that the nuns at the children's hospital used to visit our beds, and I was just so angry. I just throw Lego bricks at them. I would disrespect them. I was like a horrible. And this is the stupid thing. It's a contradiction because I wasn't a horrible child. And in general, people who know me know I'm cool.
Yeah.
But I just would have those moments of anger. So for me, like church, that was never on my radar because I was like, I want to meet this God.
Yeah.
Like, angry. Even as I think about it, I'm like, oh.
Wow.
But the meeting happened.
Yeah.
And it didn't go the way I thought. Because I thought, I'm going to meet this God because everybody talks about God like he's a physical being. And in my mind, I'm like, yo, I just want to, it sounds really rude and disrespectful for me to even say the way that I think it in my head.
Go on, say it.
But I wanted to not have words.
Yeah.
I wanted to just like have a straightener.
Yeah.
Like I want a straightener. I'm vexed.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Yeah, man.
So, the theatre company,
Go on.
my former business partner, said, Jay, I've got a friend. He wants to hire our services, and the meeting's on a Sunday. So I said, bro, what are you talking about? Why am I going to get out of my bed on a Sunday to meet with anyone regarding work? Like, make them wait until Monday morning.
Monday. Yeah.
He was like, no, it's my good friend. Da, 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 da. You know Robin and Carver.
Yeah, I saw this week. Yeah, I was thinking, Rob. Okay, yeah.
I never knew Robin at the time.
Yeah.
My friend is like, please, he's a good guy. He's working at this organization.
Yeah.
They've got a little budget that they want to spend on a performance. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I've decided I'm going to go to this meeting on a Sunday. I've jumped in my car.
Yeah.
Picked up my friend.
Yeah.
When we've pulled up at the destination, he's like, yeah, pull up here. So I've pulled over. I've parked in front of this church.
Yeah.
I'm looking across the road at these old Victorian buildings, thinking, oh, his office must be in one of these buildings.
Yeah.
No.
He's
in the church.
Yeah.
There's a church service going on.
Yeah.
I've walked in. There's like a bit of a glass divide.
Yeah.
You can see the congregation enjoying church.
Yeah.
I'm a God hater. I'm a church hater. I don't like any form of institutionalized religion.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there awkward, like,
Yeah.
where's this guy and why are we here?
Yeah.
Now, a few congregation members, they were so nice to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't be rude to them. Like, they were so nice. I couldn't be rude. I couldn't be disrespectful.
Yeah.
I couldn't be my usual terrible self.
Yeah.
So it got to the point that they invited me in so many times. I couldn't. I was like, okay, I'll sit at the back.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing a sermon and the preacher saying, have you ever had one of those times where you've just woke up, you're full of energy, but when you're hearing something that's good for you, you feel like a tiredness come over you?
Wow.
And at that time, I was like nodding off.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, I've been raving all week because at that time I was living a very different life.
Yeah. Of course.
An actor's life, touring, performing, parties, after parties, the whole thing.
Okay, wow.
And I've just got out of bed. It's like 6 o'clock in the evening, and I've just got out of bed.
Oh, evening service. Jeez.
So I woke up.
Yeah.
Energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, in this church service, I'm nodding off, but I hear the pastor say, have you ever noticed when God's trying to talk to you, tiredness tries to take over you?
Wow.
And he said, it's the devil. I've jumped off. I ran out the building, didn't meet Robin. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
literally ran out the
yeah,
building
yeah,
and
yeah.
sat in my car.
Yeah.
That happened maybe a few weeks before my big birthday
Yeah.
bash. That day that I woke up after my birthday, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Wow.
I drove back to that same church by myself a couple weeks later. I sat at the back, and every week I'd be listening. And like I said, I heard so much about who God really is and God's love. But also there were some pivotal moments in there where I got to hear messages that filled in the gaps, you know, my gaps of, you know, where were you?
Yeah, of course.
Why do we have to
It's suffer.
go through
What we
yeah?
need to go, yeah. Yeah, man.
And so the pastor approached me one day and said, I've noticed that you've been sitting at the back every week, and I know you've heard the word.
So what, go on?
Yeah. But because he's called me out in front of
yeah,
everybody, I've got up and gone, yo, what you doing? Like, and
Yeah,
savaged him
yeah.
and then walked off.
Oh.
Only for next week for me to turn up and
Oh,
apologize.
wow. Yeah.
And
Well, man.
apologize and
man,
say,
man,
I'm ready now.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was the beginning of a newer place in my life, because for all of my life before that point, I was just waiting for death. Wow. And after that point, it was like, I was now like dying to live. It was the opposite. I'm no longer living to die. I'm dying to live. And in that moment, I was like, it became clearer to me that the myth is the myth. It can be true.
Yeah.
And some of us do die young.
Jeez.
But we don't have to. And I started to let go of certain poor habits, addictions, manage my stress better. And these are all things that for people with sickle cell, you know, if you're not eating right, if you're not well hydrated, again, dehydration can also lead to painful crisis. Of course, yeah. You know, with abusing your body, you know, me doing stupid things like smoking and getting high, dehydrating myself, drinking alcohol, dehydrating myself,
Of course, yeah.
Eating poor food.
Yeah.
It was all part of my problem, mismanaging my health. After that, it was like God was just showing me, you know, it's time for you to just manage your health properly. Because I have plans for you.
Wow.
And, you know, I had not made any plans. I never used to even get into relationships with women, you know, because in my mind I was thinking, well, why would I have a girlfriend when I'm just going to die soon?
Yeah.
You know, why would I have children? Because I'm just going to, you know, and that was my mentality. So after that, it was like, God just put me back on track. And with that new life, it was like, I was now finally in a place where I could manage. And I know it sounds maybe over spiritual. I know we've gone off on a bit of a different angle.
Bro, this is crazy. But I tell you what, this is really great, guys. And anyone listening to this journey still, yeah, it's easy to say sickle cell is bad, but we don't take time out unless we impacted by something to really listen to the journey and how it affects. And you know, we're similar age groups. And you know, my journey, I have my journey to deal with, whatever. But sometimes, you know, it's really important to understand scenarios, so you have a better conviction when you do things just because it's fashion. So we give blood because it's fashion. We give blood because you knock in the door, you feel peer pressure. But what blood did for you as a youth when you first got that transfusion? Yo, it's kind of selfish to keep that inside of myself if I can help.
Well, we kind of come full circle, because this is the moment where, remember, I took that vow to never step foot into City Hospital again.
Yeah.
But you know, after I gave my life to the Lord, I did have a really painful crisis.
Yeah.
And I did go back into A&E, and it was just as terrible, but I managed it different.
Okay.
And it was weird because I remember I was I was actually worse than before, but I had a sense of peace, and I'd be, once I'd come out of that kind of
Peace in the
haze
storm. Yeah.
of being pumped full of morphine and pethidine and so on, there was a level of clarity. All of a sudden, I'm ministering to nurses and stuff. It was mad.
Yeah.
Me,
Yeah.
and I'm not. It wasn't like in-depth ministering, but
yeah.
we're just having very deep, meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
Getting in the way of nurses and doctors doing their work,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all
yeah,
sorts.
yeah.
Like people are sitting around the bed. We're having big conversations.
That's how you do it, man.
It was like a whole different thing, and I remember, that first time when I took the vow. I remember that first horrible experience. I remember a nurse, like I had the curtain drawn around my bed because I just didn't want to be. The wards were open wards back then, so 20, 30 beds on a ward and whatnot. I just wanted to not be a part of the ward.
Yeah.
Drew the curtains around. A nurse undrew the curtain and was like, "Oh, that guy over there's got sickle cell." I'm like, "So?" At the time, I'm like, "So?" But she was like, it was like she was trying to be nice and say, this guy, have a chat. And I remember looking over, and I remember this person, I got to know him later, a brother named Fitz. He's passed away now. But he had visitors around his bed, and he was joyous, and he was happy. And there's me sitting down angry. And I remember looking at him thinking, like, almost a bit jealous.
Yeah.
Like, why is he so happy? Why is he so happy when he's in pain as much as I am? And I remember he had some girls around his bed, so it looked like he was really living a good life. You know what I mean? And I was like, really hating on him.
Yeah.
So now, fast forward to this point where I'm now that joyous patient.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, Lord, I never thought this could be me. And things did get worse, but I was able to handle it. So as time went on, I had a lot of sickling within my hip joints. So my the healthy vessels in between your ball joint and your pelvis, those healthy vessels started to deteriorate to the point that my bone is really sitting on bone. So my hip joints right now, both of them, when I walk, it's really painful. But when I first got diagnosed, it was just my right hip. And but it didn't really faze me. And it comes back to that whole thing. You said something at the beginning about people pleading the blood.
Okay.
Now, I used to hear people in like elders
Yeah.
always, "Oh, I plead the blood. We plead the blood of Jesus."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, what are they on about?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had a moment where I was in such pain and I was in church one day and another connection. I don't know if you remember Malika.
Of course I remember.
Malika was at church and calling people to the front to pray. If you've got any ailment, come to the front. Me being stubborn, I was like, I'm not going to the front in front of no audience. And I stood where I was and I was like, Lord, give me that healing that I used to have when I had monthly blood transfusions. And it was in that moment that I realized, well, that's what the elders are praying about.
Wow.
The power of the blood. Like spiritually.
Wow.
Yeah. Really asking for a spiritual, godly blood transfusion.
Okay. Yeah, man.
And I called out to God, and in that moment, it was like the healing just came. Bear in mind, I had been at work all week. I was at the youth project. I actually left. We were understaffed. I was in so much pain. I left work to go to the Sickle Cell and Thalassemia Centre at City Hospital. I had some pain relief. I got pumped full of morphine, and I left my bed and jumped back in my car and went back to work because we were understaffed. I was like, I can't leave. Like we had swimming that afternoon, and I was like, I can't leave the staff unsupervised. It could be tragic, but really, I was in no condition to be going back to work. But so I had that kind of week. So when I was calling out to God, I was like, Lord, I need to be healed, because for the rest of this summer half term,
You gotta be on
I
it.
need to be there for the young people.
Yeah.
And in that moment, the healing came, and I was like, that was quick. Like, because I'd never really experienced that before.
I could do this more often.
Yeah. I'm a few years in.
Yeah,
I'm no longer a newborn baby in Christ. I'm just, I'm here now. And in that moment, I was like, look at that. Like, so yeah, I spent a really good 8 solid years with having no hospital admissions.
Wow.
And really just living a joyful life. I had my first real meaningful long-term relationship with a woman.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah,
like
man.
I'm experiencing that. I'm behind. You know what I mean? Because everybody else at school, we're having girlfriends early. I'm behind schedule, bro. My first missus was like, I'm 25.
That's a decade behind us, I don't want that.
But for that 8 years, I was in such a great place.
Amen.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually. And even though it did come crashing down, it was a really great time. And I think one thing I'd like to touch on,
I think I remember when I remember that when you went quite sick bad, because obviously we had mutual friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? James and all these guys.
Yeah,
So we're checking. It's like, yeah, man. So I would know what's going on, because obviously the church that you're talking about is the church where I got born. So Sister Moore's my grandma and all of the things. So Sister James and all these guys grew up when I was there. So I know. Every nook and cranny I was born bred there, so a lot of things people I can verify, because I you know what I'm saying. So that is really crazy cool. But what I will say, I wanna Oscar now, in all this time you're going through this journey, you're coming into the let's call it the cool period. You know what I'm saying? The cool about 8 years. When did you pop over to? Because you said you joined up Oscar in the early 2000s. So I'm assuming was that
around that same time.
That same time,
so that
beauty
time
period,
where I
started giving.
I started to really living.
Yeah.
So I jointly helped. I went from kind of volunteering and helping out at a youth project to kind of co-running it with another colleague, and I also was on the board of OSCAR Birmingham, and I was on a few boards at the time, but for OSCAR Birmingham, it was like, in my mind when I was young, I said if I was ever going to give any time to OSCAR Birmingham, it would be maybe in my 30s or 40s if I'm still alive. Because in my mind, I was like,
I'm too active for now.
You know what I mean?
It does have a vibe, still
at
back
22, I'm sitting on the board, innit? And
crazy.
Doing a lot of serious things. But it was a pivotal time in the journey of OSCAR Birmingham as well. Because we had just...
sorry, that's just before your 23-year-old bash.
Oh no! After the 21st,
after the
big
pagan
bash, days were gone.
Yeah.
I'm a new man,
and so this is just at the period after you gone back to churches and stuff like that. So and then that period you kind of it's like a renewing of mind and a renewing of focus. Okay, cool.
So within that, equally, it was a pivotal time in OSCAR Birmingham's journey as well, because the old OSCAR Birmingham board,
the Windwash generation,
were coming to an end, and so we came on as this almost like new blood, the whole board, the new OSCAR Birmingham, and the board at the time, because some of the members of the board, great people, and even now, I have to give a shout out to Laurentine Miller and Paulie Denzi, because over the last 20 years, them two have been pivotal. I hold the title of chairman. But I'm not chairman material. You've just heard me waffle on for the last... And for people watching this, they're going to be like, he's the chair. It's a shambles. But, great, strong people like those two who have really helped. They are the power behind me. They're the wheelchair, you know. And
Okay.
so at that time, the new board, through their business acumen and their ability, they were able to pull down new funding. And we started to go through a golden age, you know, between 2002 to the 2008 recession.
Yeah.
It was just like we had so much services,
Yeah, man.
and we were able to retain more staff than ever before. You know, we had enough funding to have a really big team. And we moved to a base on Rookery Road in Handsworth. And throughout that time,
Snap.
it was like any member of the community who had fallen away because they may have been thinking, where is OSCAR Birmingham? What happened to them? They're not doing as much as they used to. How dare, you know, there was a bit of a resentment in some parts of the community because I'm still a sickler. So I go to places where people with sickle cell are going to talk and say, where are they?
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
So,
you
you know, unbeknownst to them, I'm sitting there like, oh, that's how people feel. We need to remedy that.
No, 100.
And, you know, so we spent a lot of time rebuilding, and it was a really great time in our history. And, you know, the recession happened.
Yeah.
We had dips. We couldn't hold on to all of our staff. And then we're currently now back again in a really great time. But we've changed, you know, less about the flamboyant events and more about the core services.
Okay.
So, you know, the amount of young people that we support, the services that we have, whether it's the half-term activities and the outings, which gives respite to the parents.
Of course.
Whether it's the, you know, the remedial massage therapies and other therapies that we deliver, the kind of coffee mornings and the forums and creating safe spaces for people to share, you know, the carers groups. Again, great space for parents to just hook up and share their experiences. And then for us and our staff to really support them in any which way, whether that be, you know, housing support, whether that be financial support, you know, helping them to access things if say they were like in a position like my mum was, where
That's
she
brilliant.
couldn't work because of how bad I was.
It's almost like a triage kind of place where, you know what I'm saying, like almost an area where hospitals only could do what hospitals do. You know what I'm saying? And it's almost an area of knowledge, care, understanding. Let me throw to yourself now, and I'm very much into being harsh on our people. Not harsh, forgive me. Right, we go through recession, and I know being a community organizations, you know, times like this, what we're going through right now, ain't fun. Yeah, and you really find out who's on this game. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, when the money is plenty, there's so many pop-up organizations. But when it's there, all you see every certain man's are retiring. You know what I'm saying? And focus. But for me, I really want to encourage, because I believe there is finance and success within our communities that are impacted by success by Black, Afro-Caribbean, Black, not only Black, what we know, not only Southeast Asian. I knew it more as the Mediterranean because of how it impacts my life. But then, I don't think, you know, true. It's that, you know, Southeast Asian communities. My to a lot of you out there, you know, how many do you donate? It seems like it's like no one wants to donate unless it impacts them directly personally. If you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying people don't donate, you know what I'm saying, but I feel that sometimes I find that we need more support from without you having to do a car wash. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're not belittling that,
Well, you know, I think what has happened over the years, you know, we're coming from an era where our founders were doing things like annual walkathons, you know, annual dinners and big fundraising events, as well as the smaller ones. And in that generation, you know, a lot of our community, especially like the African Caribbean community, gave.
Yeah.
So, we had a historic account which we carried over from the previous board, which there was a point where, through all the admin and taking over, we didn't realize this account was still there. And when we checked the statement, we were finding that people were still giving.
Wow.
People, like some of the older generation was still giving, So actually the community do give.
Okay,
they do. And over the years, they give in different ways. Because, some people can't afford to give money, especially in these,
tough times, man.
Tough times,
Yeah.
cost of living.
Yeah.
But people give their time. And sometimes I'm fine with that. Like we don't always have to give money. But when you can actually partake, you can, volunteer your time if you have time. That's also a blessing. And I think within the organization, we're at a time where we are financially stable at the moment, and we have a lot of good, within the network and the funding network. We have good relationships with the city council, the NHS, children in need. So we've been having ongoing funding just turning over because of how successful our service delivery has been. Every time we're at the end of a funding cycle, they've renewed our funding because we've been hitting our targets, and sometimes we've been overperforming. And even though you don't hear about this because we're not out there the way we used to, do we need to? I don't know. I mean, we probably do, and we need more media coverage. But when things are that good, and we have like a great team right now, another person to really shout out, Hobby Rahman he is our chief executive officer.
Okay.
He doesn't hold that title because he doesn't want to hold the title. I've been twisting his arm for a long time saying it's time, but
he does it.
He does what he does, and he does it great. He has come in and kept really great relationships with the funders. He's built some new relationships in the community that we never had elsewhere before. So when you walk into the office now, you will see just such a diverse group of thalassemia and sickle cell patients, carers, and because of immigration, the landscape has changed. Back in the day, most sickle cell patients were from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Most thalassemia patients were from, India and Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Yeah.
But now, again, it's so diverse. The different groups, some of the emerging immigrant groups as well, that you would not think sickle cell or thalassemia affects them.
Yeah.
So we're seeing everyone pop up, and the great work that's happening in the base at the office. I really just have to take my hat off to the staff and really just, they don't want the glory.
They just,
But, they're not.
they want to serve. They want to serve, man.
As long as we've got enough finance to deliver the things that are really needed,
we're good.
we're good.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
on one hand, we have to pat ourselves on the back, and on the other hand, we probably need a bit of a kick up the behind for not being as visible.
Yeah.
But,
Well, this is what this is all about, though, bro. It's for me.
Yeah.
It's what a platforming, and this is what we're trying to do in Affinity Xtra. We want to really platform what you guys doing, and I think this is when myself, I'm passionate about owning our own media, and our own media cares. This is what we should be caring about. And it's not just BBC and ITV that needs to represent you guys publicly. It's people that's in the community going to have these real conversations. A 30-second, a 1 minute piece about you guys is great, but being able to really talk to you about your journey, the real rawness of it, and hearing about Oscar, and like I said, guys, I remembered Oscar like after my last interview, and it just came to my mind just because I walked past and I saw that symbol on that door, and I never went to AJ because it's so crazy. I'm here sitting next to the chair. I'm sitting there going, how on earth did I end up here? How on earth did And you know what? It shows that sometimes you're doing the right thing when these things kind of happening. And it really, I'm having, God's winning going in the future, opportunities where we can continually work with yourselves outside of just talking about it, you know, in terms of working with the young people, having spaces of respite, having continual ability to communicate to the world, because sometimes we don't have the ability to communicate certain drives that you're having, you know what I mean? And some people feeling isolated because of what they're going through. And something, you know, I had a conversation with a minister, and I had a conversation with the last, something that which A-Star is very passionate about. He saw I think I mentioned to you about the ministers in the Greek Orthodox churches. They are very strong on, you know, on listen, if you both got the genotype of thalassemia, we won't marry you because of, you know what I mean. And obviously Ali's like, yo, why aren't we doing this in our spaces? Are we that? Oh, don't worry, healing, you know what I mean, whatever. Are we that? How do you feel hearing your journey, bro? Like, and we can't go back. So this is not about to say go back and say, why didn't my mom and dad, you know, because like you said, at the time, that information wasn't like that now. But in today's society, where it's just a simple conversation, you know what I'm saying? Tess, do you feel that ministers and other religious leaders in these spaces that are joining two people together, it seems like specifically when it comes to colour, yo guys, check out your genotypes, and if they do match, they'll say, nah, I can't do this because of this.
I didn't know that was a thing in terms of not ordaining the marriage between two people who carry the thalassemia gene. I didn't know that, actually. And I think it's a hard one because, you know, if we were to do that in our community, if any one of our black-led churches were to take that kind of hard line, it might not go down so well, you know, and I understand why they do it.
Hard love.
Yeah, I understand why.
And it's changed it in their community.
What you have to understand is, unlike, say, the UK, where we have, you know, a few specialized sickle cell and thalassemia services in certain larger hospitals in major cities, outside of those major cities, you don't really have any specialized care. You know, a sickle cell or thalassemia patient will be in a normal hematology kind of ward or service. Bring Greece, you have to understand that because thalassemia does affect the native people of Greece,
it's a bit government it's going to be part of it
on their agenda. Naturally, it's a national problem, which means the way they approach thalassemia services in Greece, you know, they have over 300 specialist centers in Greece.
Wow.
Across the country. So that shows you how
they take it serious.
How serious they are and how significant the numbers are of people with thalassemia in their country, which means, you know, the way that the government put it on the agenda and the support that they have in terms of, I don't know, whether it's something as basic as, you know, free bus passes or, you know, certain access to transport and financial support and so on. The Greek Orthodox Church have, well, this is their approach because it's big on their agenda and it's very impactful. Do I agree with it? I don't know. But do I understand? I do understand. I don't know if it would work in churches in the UK. I don't know, because we're living in a time where people are more likely to say, who are you to tell me I can't marry the person I love? And I understand that. But, you know, I've got friends who... I've got two friends.
But the thing is, my wife was saying to me, back in the 90s, no, because we never had it. I think it was just before we had our first child. And then we realized that we have to check this out. She says, we can't have children. Why would you want to? And now listening to your journey, it'd be wicked to know. No, but it is wicked to know, I don't business. But my child has to go through all that. And I got the prior knowledge.
It's a hard decision for any couple. You know, I have two friends who, they don't just carry the gene. They both have the full-blown condition.
Wow.
And They are married, happily married. You know, listen, their child is perfectly cool. I mean, well, I say perfectly cool. You know, she did inherit, she does have the full-blown disorder as well. So it does mean at times, in the worst times, they could, all three of them can be in hospital.
Yeah, that's what Ellie was saying, man.
And they've even been in 3 different hospitals at one time.
What?
Yeah. So, but that was their choice. They made that choice knowing, and, you know, I know there were a lot of people at the time that didn't agree with their choice.
Okay.
And they made it vocal. For me, I remember at the time I said it out loud, and then I felt wrong because I was like, but I love my friends, and but I was also in that
That's
same
good.
camp.
That's good. Yeah.
I was in that same camp that was saying, well, is it right to bring a child into the world knowing how painful it's going to be? And I was more on the side of, nah, like, we should avoid that. But again, you know, life is life. And, you know, when you meet someone that you love, it dictates a lot of our decisions. And, you know, sometimes...
I feel you, bro. I feel you. Yeah.
Sometimes logic goes out the window because love is... You know,
big.
It's big, but it's equally the foundation that has kept them together. You know, so throughout all the hardship, they're still cool. They're still together. And they know, and they've made their choice. You know, and I think you'd have to speak to young people to see what their opinion is. Like, was it right for my mum? If my mum and dad knew their status as being carriers, and they made the decision to not have kids, would that have been right? I wouldn't be here now. But again, it's just one of them hard things.
It's hard. It's hard, man. It's hard.
Couple needs to,
but you need to know the pros and cons and know it real.
And like I said earlier, look, just because my experience is
this
the most severe, or one of
you
know, a severe example of what it's like to live with sickle cell, the healthcare, the revolving door of just being in and out of hospital, the you know, avascular necrosis in my hips, the damage in my lungs, the damage in my heart, all the different things. You know, I didn't really even get to that part because I think there's so much of my story that's so recent. You know, I had that 8 years of bliss, that 8 years of not being in hospital, only to go on holiday on my 30th birthday and be taken ill on my birthday abroad.
Wow.
And
which country?
I went to Dubai.
Oh, no.
Now, bear in mind, my ex, she had great intentions. She surprised me. I didn't know I was going to Dubai. Turned up at the airport, put the passport in the machine. It flashes up on the screen. I'm like, what? But I was not prepared for the holiday.
Okay.
I didn't have I had some of my medications, but I never had everything. I wasn't able to travel, even though I didn't know where I was going. I wasn't able to travel with my morphine or any opiates, any other medications that are opiate based, because of their laws. And I couldn't get my act because it was a surprise. I didn't really have a part to play in the build up to that holiday. And unbeknownst to her, she did not know. And this is because the 8 years we were together, I was in great health. I might not have been in great health, but I was in great enough health to not be admitted to hospital. So she actually had never witnessed that side of my life. So when we were in Dubai, she hasn't declared my health on the travel insurance. So I was not covered. When I went into hospital at the American Hospital of Dubai, I think the final bill was like £15,000. And I was out of it. I was so severely ill. I wasn't awake for much of that time. Was only meant to be out there for 4 days. Spent about 9 days in hospital. And you know, you can imagine my family. There's like an emergency family meeting. I hear like secondhand stories because a lot of people hid things from me. So I still don't know who gave what, who gave money, who helped out. I came back home with the intention to pay my debts, but nobody wants to talk. So I don't really know who. I'm thankful for everyone who did. And the fact that you even could, because it was such a hefty bill, but it was such a breaking time. I think my ex was not ready for that. She was thrown into the deep end. And again, it's not her fault. You know, she never knew that I needed specialist travel insurance. She didn't know. And I think that's since then, because I'm not going to lie, I put my hands up. When I was younger, I used to go to Jamaica. I used to go whatever short trips, long trips. I'd have normal travel insurance. I never covered myself because I never thought it would happen. So when it did, it was mad. I came back to England. The airline declared me unfit to travel, even though my doctor, God bless her, this African-American Muslim woman who wasn't even working at that hospital, but she was the only specialist hematologist in Dubai that could look after me. And she was working at the children's hospital next door. She came. Ooh. So yeah.
Bro, God was movie.
So
we used to
good.
do a movie, bro. Straight up movie.
Listen, God was so good to me, you know, because
Yeah.
this woman, proper devout Muslim, you know, proper hijabi, proper. She came and she was like, "I'm not letting you leave until you're fit to fly." So I had to do these all these exercises. Like I had acute sickle chest syndrome, which can be fatal, you know, and I was really close to death. Once my lungs kind of got their capacity back, she would have me doing these random breathing exercises with these old kind of like nothing fancy. It's like this old tube with a ball, and you have to blow when the ball has to touch the top. And if it doesn't touch the top, you can't leave because you're not ready yet to go on a plane.
Come on now.
And she just looked after me and nursed me back to health. And it was a big culture shock as well because in the Arab Emirates, their hospitals are different because culturally it's different. So in Islamic countries, you're not going to have women looking after men.
Okay.
So I had 2 male nurses around the clock. That's a culture shock for me because in England, nursing is a predominantly, it's a female-dominated, you know, career. So to have 2 guys and they were, bruv, listen, they were not empathetic. Like, it's not that they weren't empathetic. They were there to do a job. Listen,
Man, them
I'm
approach, man.
frail, I'm mashed up, I can't do nothing for myself. They come to change the bed. They just lift you off on a sheet and just dump you and just... Like, they hold
Big
you in
man
the air
thing.
while they change the bed. How?
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Wow.
You know, these 2 geezers were just manhandling me and I was just not used to that level of care.
Wow.
And it made me go, I think I need the NHS.
Whoa.
I mean, the culture is
Bring
different.
back to Dudley Road Hospital.
But again, you know what? They really looked after me.
Come on now.
They really did. Now, obviously, it's private care. You're paying for
Yeah.
every needle, every line, every med, you're paying for the nurse's time. You're paying, I think it was at the time about £500-600 just to be admitted into A&E, which makes us understand here in the UK how blessed we really are. You know, it doesn't matter how much I say terrible things about the NHS. I know that we are very privileged to be in a place where we pay our taxes and our taxes go to the right place. All right, that's debatable. But, you know, As far as the NHS is concerned,
yeah.
you know, we
Yeah.
do have a strong
institution,
institution,
yeah.
and you know, we have some great work. And even though I've shared some of the horror stories of going into hospital in Birmingham, our current specialist sickle cell and thalassemia center is staffed by some really great people and really great doctors who look. Me and the other patients, we moan about our doctors all the time. You know, we do. We moan about the service, but actually, Dr. Wright and Dr. Pancham have saved my life on multiple occasions in the last 10 years. You know, me coming back from Dubai and recovering was a long process. You know, breakups, heartbreak, all of that. And even if I admit, I can admit it now that I'm a bit older, but I didn't realize how much the emotional heartbreak took a toll on my health.
Yeah. The physical, emotional, physical, mental well-being are highly connected. If you're depressed, it affects your physical health. If your physical health is down, it affects your mental health. Well-being it's not until of late we realize how connected they are. You know what I'm saying? And you know what I mean? And yeah, man.
So
bro.
for me, I went from emotional heartbreak
Bro.
and losing who I thought at the time was the love of my life, to actual physical heartbreak. You know, over the years, my health started to deteriorate slightly, and I wasn't really looking after myself. And I can admit, I went back to poor decisions. I went back to smoking at one point. I went back to drinking. And just living a life that wasn't really conducive to my health. And like literally the day of the breakup, I went back to drinking and smoking. You would have never known I was a Christian. It was like I was back in the world.
Yeah.
Like fully immersed. And but it really wasn't good for me. And even though I bounced back and I'm now in a really great relationship, the toll it took on my body, I never knew that I was deteriorating. I didn't make the connection. I didn't think, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I'm healed and everything's good. And I was, but the damage was already done. So I was having a lot more sickling. I was having, at the time, what the doctors thought was a reoccurring chest infection, but it wasn't. It was, I had multiple blood clots in both my lungs, and they just kept coming. It was relentless. So those multiple pulmonary embolisms started to, if anyone knows about pulmonary embolisms, when you have a clot in your lungs, the clots can block the healthy airways, the gas exchange chambers in your lungs.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you're having almost, you've got less lung capacity because of the clots. And what happens is your heart starts to overcompensate to keep you alive, to keep your oxygen saturation levels at where it's needed. I was going through that for a good 2 years where I didn't realize my heart was actually failing. And then on top of it, because I was having reoccurring clots, because if you have sickle cell or thalassemia, you are actually more prone to clotting. And throughout my life, I never had any problems with clots. But at this point in my life, it was a big problem. And I went into acute heart failure, and my heart was failing. Never failed, but it was just really on the verge. But I was also in a painful sickle cell crisis at the same time. The cardiologist and the hematologist were arguing with each other what is going to be the mode of treatment. For the cardiologist, they wanted to give me this I can only explain it like an infusion, which is a super clot busting medication that will dissolve the clot quick enough to give my heart time to bounce back. But the hematologist wanted me to have a blood exchange, which would give my body a chance to bounce back from the painful crisis, because my sickle levels were off the chart. My hemoglobin levels were off the chart. So in the end, I had a line put in to have back then we at City Hospital, we didn't have the apheresis machines, these high tech, machines that basically perfectly balance the amount of blood.
Okay.
A blood exchange, you're having blood removed and you're having a blood transfusion at the same time. And the amount coming in has to match the amount going out. So your blood pressure can drop. And you can have all sorts of side effects. With the machine, it's a smooth process. But we didn't have that at the time. So we used to have nurses manually exchanging our blood, or we'd have to get shipped off to London for an exchange. So at that time, they've set me up. I've gone to surgery. They've put a line in my groin of all places. I don't get that because my wife mentioned that with because obviously with the kidney disease, she mentioned about in the groin. Oh my Lord. They were like, you can either have it in your neck or your groin. And I said, do whatever's best, which I probably should have not said. So,
bro, but like, it's crossing my legs now.
Yeah. So imagine.
Guys, I've gone 2 shades white out.
That line is in my groin, but the cardiologist win the debate. So I don't have an exchange. So I've got the line in for no reason. Instead, they give me an infusion through my arm of this super clot busting drug. And it really did work. But because it's a very powerful infusion, if you've even got a small cut, you will bleed out. You know what I mean? You'll just start to bleed. You're not going to bleed to death.
I know what I mean.
Because it's that powerful, it will thin your blood to that level. So around where the surgeon has put the line in my groin, I was bleeding out, and it was a nightmare.
My
heart.
I
was in on a cardiac ward, and you know what? It sounds really mad because I was in a really bad place again. But there was this old Punjabi guy, this old Sikh guy, and I swear he must have been like in his late 80s, early 90s. Short, frail, skinny. But he was getting out of bed every day and just pace it, like he'd do a lap.
Do your steps, man. Do your steps.
Flowing,
keep steps. Keep your steps.
Himself going.
Do your steps, man.
And I was really, if I'm honest, at the time I was broken. But I watched that guy get up out of his bed every day and walk. And I was like, yo, I can't die here. I'm getting out of my bed. And, he inspired me to just get out, get up.
Yeah, man.
Man.
Don't stop, man.
And it was kind of difficult because I wasn't really in a position where I could really walk. So I'm really just holding on to my bedside and walking around my bed. That's as much as physical as I could be. But
yeah, man.
But unfortunately, because of the damage that was done by the multiple reoccurring clots, sometimes I'd have multiple in one lung, or sometimes I'd have a major big clot in another lung, or sometimes I'd just be both.
Yeah.
But the scarring that was left behind, if you have clots for long enough, they can leave scar tissue in your lungs. And right now I have quite a significant amount of scarring. And it led to, imagine I've come out of hospital, Christmas 2014, Easter, I'm back in. I've gone out raving. I've rebuilt myself. I think I'm good. I mean, not raving. Raving sounds over the top. Yeah. But I went out. I went to an event. I went to watch a performance, and I had a good night out. And admittedly, I did have 1 or 2 drinks. I woke up with like a hangover on Easter Monday and was like, this feels different. I never drank enough to
feel like that. Yeah.
I wasn't even tipsy. It was like I literally had 3-4 drinks.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll just sleep. The next day I wake up again. I'm still hungover. Like, this isn't right. The next day I've woke up again and I feel even worse. But I had an appointment at the SCAT centre. And I've struggled to get my clothes on, but I've got in the shower, unaided. I got myself together, jumped in a taxi, gone to the hospital, and I just about made it up the corridor from the front of the hospital to where the sickle cell centre was situated. And I walked through the doors. And me being me, like the nurse is like, "Oh, you all right, Jay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm good, I'm good. Just let me just get in and out, do my bloods, do my observations." And they were like, "But you don't look right." I was like, "Nah, I'm all right. Just give me some painkillers and I'll go home and I'll go to sleep." They were like, "Nah." And they just were like, "Nah." They were adamant they weren't sending me home, but I couldn't fight because I just was already
all over the place,
deteriorating. Like my heart was failing again. So I sat in the bed and it was actually a good job I didn't go home, because if I had gone home and taken painkillers and gone to sleep, I actually wouldn't have woke up. So it worked out. All the arguing and trying to fight, it didn't work, and it worked out fine. I'm glad the nurses won because I'm still here. But it was mad. It was because the deterioration was just fast. It was like as soon as I took some pain relief, I drifted off, and I was like gone. I don't remember. There's so much missing in my memory. Like I remember being in a bed bay in the Sickle Cell and Thalassemia Centre, and then I remember waking up much later in a different bed on a ward, and then I remember waking up again in a different bed in intensive care with all new clothes on.
Wow.
I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, I remember specifically, I was all in red that day for some reason. I've looked down, I'm like, where's these boxes come from? And then I was like, oh, you changed me. Like I was so concerned with like, the nurses got to look.
Don't look at you like, who was it?
Listen, there was nothing impressive to look at that time, because not only was my heart failing, my liver was also failing.
Wow.
Because my heart wasn't able to give enough oxygen to my liver, and it was a mess.
How long ago was this?
This is going back 10 years now.
10 years now, yeah.
So imagine it was a really weird time, because I woke up, I needed to use the bathroom, but the nurses weren't around. And I remember putting my feet on the floor.
About different.
My feet were swollen, like
Wow.
wide. And then I realized my thighs were big.
Wow.
And like my liver was failing, so I was retaining water. And I was bloated. Now, everyone who came to visit me, I think there was like an unspoken agreement that don't show him a mirror, because my face, my head, everything, I was bloated. My eyeballs were big. It was random. And I wasn't as bad as previously. So I was able to manage the pain, but I just didn't understand why I couldn't stay awake. And I spent a good week just in and out of consciousness and having the most weird, I don't know if it was dreams or daydreams or visions, whatever they were. It was like I was sitting in a bed that was moving. So people were walking towards me and walking around me, and it was like walking through a busy street. Every time I looked at the clock, the hands of the clock were like warped and like those old artistic, those, and it was. I felt like I was losing my mind, and I felt like I was seeing. Well, in my mind, I was like, well, these people that I'm seeing walking around my bed, they're all strangers. I don't know them from anywhere in my life. How can I have these images in my mind? And I was praying so hard. I was like, Lord, keep my sanity. Heavenly Father, please let me be able to distinguish between what's real life and what is just the medication or my mind playing tricks on me. Let me be able to see the nurses, and because I think a lot of people have had experiences like this in intensive care where they've gone through severe trauma that it's affecting them mentally. So I did feel a little bit uneasy. Like I felt like I was losing my mind, like I'm going off my rocker. And I remember once I recovered through the aid of another big shout out, Liz from SCAT. She manually transfused me. She gave me a manual blood exchange, and it helped me to bounce back and give my heart the ability to have a bit of wiggle room. But she manually exchanged. And what people don't understand, the importance of blood drives again, is whereas with a blood transfusion, you might have 3 or 4 units. You know, with a blood exchange, you can have like 8 units or more. You know, we use a lot more blood when it comes to blood exchanges, which is why we really need the African Caribbean, the African, West African, East African, even everybody, if you're from the African continent or of the African diaspora.
The diaspora, yeah.
It's very important. And you know, you're looking at me and I don't look like your typical Jamaican because I'm Indian. You know, I'm Indian, West African with a little smidge of Scottish, you know. So I'm not the same. And I don't know where I'm going to get that perfect blood from. But I'm very grateful for those who have given, because time and time again, blood exchanges, blood transfusions have saved my life.
So, right, I'm totally conscious of time now, because we're going to that. And guys, anyone who's not seen this, I'm telling you straight now, I think I've gone 3 shades lighter. You know what I'm saying? I'm not an ER guy, you know, people. I don't watch these doctor programs. I'm soft when it comes to this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, bro, the journey is absolutely impact. But you really hit a point in terms of the reason for blood drives and the importance and what we're going to be doing on Affinity Xtra. And I'm next to the chair of OSCAR Birmingham, and I'm really holding him accountable as I want this to be part of. I'm very much into well-being and you know what I mean, and care and support we can do in the communities. But even it's a case of going, when you got events, special events for the communities, maybe creating up certain types of adverts and communications through our platform to people in the community, to let them know what's going on, but also to be able to support people and bring knowledge up within everything, because your life, your loved one is not only impacted on not only your mom, your mom's life, it impacted your cousins, your family, you know, and sometimes, you know, when we don't have something and we see somebody suffer and they get all the care, sometimes we turn up in a certain way thinking, oh, they're lucky, but they don't realize what the journey is going on. And for me, learning what OSCAR Birmingham what I said 6 weeks ago, I said, what is OSCAR Birmingham doing in Birmingham right now? What are we doing? And, you know, and to really be able to be in a space where, and this is what I designed, as much as I said that, I want to be interacting with organizations that's led for predominantly condition that affects people. And I say predominantly because we're learning that it's not only us, but predominantly affects us in a land unlike the Greeks, or in a land which is not their native condition. We have to always recognize that it's understanding that we've got organizations out there that are supporting, not only when we go into crisis, but also the actual day-to-day elements. And it's glad to hear OSCAR is on the day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah, the work that we're delivering, you know, from the befriending work to the work to support carers, you know, we're still really going strong, and there's still a need. So we have to be strong. We have to continue. And I've always said, I know I've said it as a joke before, but actually, when that time comes that we have a true cure, we can't shut our doors until there is that time. You know, we can't afford for any recession to force us to shut the doors. We can't afford to shut.
We're keeping driving
because
forward.
we have a big client group. You know, I think UK wide, you know, we have figures.
Is that 30,000? Was it?
Yeah. So in Birmingham alone,
yeah.
we've got over 1,000 people living with sickle cell and thalassemia.
Okay, 1,000 people. Okay.
Yeah, and in the UK, it's estimated we've got over 30,000 people living across the UK. Am I getting my figures wrong? I feel like I'm looking at this and it's not making as much sense as when I wrote it. But for approximately 30 and above carrying the trait, and about 15,000 with the full disorder. But that's growing.
And that's in Birmingham, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So basically, you got 1,000 people who's got the full-blown sickle cell in Birmingham. In the area, Birmingham and the surrounding areas,
Sorry,
around about 1,000.
some of this data is conflicting. I've written it
Yeah.
down way
Oh,
wrong.
right, okay.
And
What
you know
with the
what?
trait? Yeah.
There's going to be time for you
Yeah.
to have clinicians on and people who can clarify, because you know what? I never really I shared it with you before we came on.
Yeah.
And it's why I've stepped back from some work. I'm not as visible, is because those two, well, I shared the 2 times of having heart failure, but there was a third 6 months later and it was touch and go. And even though I wasn't in pain that day, with the third and final acute heart failure, I felt great. I just felt breathless. I'm sitting in a hospital bed and I'm joking, I'm jovial, I'm talking to other patients. And the doctors were like, "Oh, sorry, we got to put you in intensive care." I'm like, "What do you mean? I feel all right." They were like, "No, your heart, and this time and there was only like a 10% chance of this medication working in intensive care." And it was like I had to call my mom, I had to call my girl was on the way back, and so it was like madness all over again. I won't go into the story because it is crazy, but again, the impact it's had on me, it's why I've had to it's why I'm medically retired. It's why I'm not as visible. It's the brain fog. I've had to write down notes. I typed this morning because I was like, I know I'm going to forget everything. I'm not going to say it in order.
Yeah.
And my memory has been severely affected. And I know it gets on my family's nerves. I know it gets on my gut, even the kids at home, because I'll ask the same question again and again.
Wow.
I'll be like, on the weekend when we're going to that event.
Yeah.
So what time are we going again?
And about,
Or, and I'll ask it again the next day and the next day. And I'm not retaining information. And, it's kind of been weird because I've really had a great comeback.
Yeah.
I really am in a great place. A hospital in Cambridge really saved my life. They have been looking at the aftercare for my heart and them keeping me alive so long.
Wow, yeah.
This new medication that I'm on, yet another medication. It's really doing well for me. And I think not everyone's life is going to be like this. If anyone is watching, not everyone's life is going to be as hard as this. So if you do carry the gene and you're in love with someone else who carries the gene, don't be scared. You know what I mean? I would never put no one off not having a family.
Yeah.
We have the things that keep us healthier now is not just the health interventions, but even things like
knowledge of
health, lifestyle.
Lifestyle.
The way I eat now
yeah.
is completely different. Certain Jamaican cuisine I will cook as a treat. I'll make a pot of oxtail and rice, or I'll make like curry goat or something like that. But that's a treat. Those kind of foods I can't really, I need to eat foods that digest easily, don't put my heart under stress. And it gives me that. Also juicing and smoothieing and just eating all round healthy. And just staying well hydrated. And that is how I'm still here to tell these terrible stories. But, I'm still here.
Come on.
Because and love as well. You know, stress. If you're in a bad relationship, it can impact your health. If you're under financial stress, you know, so there's been times, even recently, I can admit, you know, new house, but then my income dropped, and I was really stressing about how am I gonna keep this house afloat, and it started to affect my health. But when I saw the sign, I was like, you know what, it's time to just let go. I know I can manage. I might not have the perfect amount in the bank, but there's enough for us to eat. There's enough to cover all the bills. And whatever happens after that, it's just a sacrifice. But I had to get back into that healthy mindset, that space where I can let go of things that are stressing me. Because if you live, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have sickle cell. You don't have to have thalassemia. You can be an able-bodied, perfectly healthy person. But if you're not managing your stresses in life, you too could become ill. But for me, I've just had to learn. It's been a long journey. I wish I knew all this earlier.
No. This is what
If
this
I
is
was
important,
eating,
you know.
if I was eating the way I eat now, when I was young, if I was mentally as resilient as I am now, you know, I could live a really long life and reach, you know, into my 90s.
But this is what this conversation is about for me, bro. Yeah. And I hope people live in this, because the thing is, inability to, and I say inability, a poor rate of actually pass, because we struggle in silence. That's a really great skill of a lot of us in our community. Our ability to struggle in silence and not talk the thing, as I would say. And you know, I do not know the details. Obviously, AJ hasn't really given me or I haven't had it as a book to check out or watch any previous interviews with him, go into this detail. And I've never been to any events that you've spoke at, you know what I mean? So all this is hitting me, but I believe that as coming, you know, guys, looking at this, it's really listen to the conversation, listen to the journey, listen to the life. If there's hope in you, what you said, you know, bro, there's a lot of hope. Yeah, as alongside the struggle, there's always every time you took to each stage, well, if I did it like this, you know what I'm saying, which I learned afterwards, I should have I enjoyed that day, but the next day was, you know, so there's a lot of learning from your life, and everything in life is about learning. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you being. I said it's the edge, and I said before the show, I said, yes, edge, we edgy out here, we chop it up and where. I'm afterwards going, Lord have mercy, I gotta eat, I gotta get my head right after, because it's a lot of information. And
no, you know what? I apologize for being so heavy.
No, don't.
It's been a long time,
bro.
It's been a long time since I shared, because I rarely share anymore. And actually, I had to hold myself.
This is the pole in the ground that AJ's, you know, and this is why I utilize podcasts. I like too often the greatness that our parents and our grandparents have done that could guide today, and not something that we can look back in. This is part of the library. This is part of documenting. You know what I'm saying? You know, and there's still space for a short movie on your life. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that.
You can direct your own movie. And he's directing, you know, fear takes and be like, no, that's not me. Come on. But yeah, he's laughing, you know, he's thinking about it now. He's like, Roger, see that camera over there? Can we, you know what I'm saying? You know, but no, 100%, you know, I am honored, and I'm just getting to point to where to go to from OSCAR. And I know I never came into this conversation to talk to the chairman of OSCAR Birmingham, but I walk out with my chest up high, actually know the guy, chair of the organization, but also great to hear what the organization is doing. And it's great to hear and that it's going to be even more easier. You know, sometimes when you step back and say, this could be hard to do this, it could be hard to do this. But it's great that this has even made it more easier for us to look at, okay, how can we campaign and do blood drives? I'm fed up of waiting for people to work with us and beg us. But it's all here, no excuses, let's do it.
Look, if people want to follow and support, you can reach us at oscarbirmingham.org.uk or just Google OSCAR Birmingham. So remember, OSCAR OSCAR, like the name, OSCAR, the Organization for Sickle Cell Anemia Relief. And you can also contact us on 0121 212 9209. Now, if you're not Birmingham based and you're watching this from elsewhere, check out your own local services. If you're London based, you have the Sickle Cell Society in Liverpool, in Leicester, in everywhere. In each city, we have our own sister organizations. And we also have some independent organizations that are not connected to us, but are just as great. So if you want to support, if you want to support the UKTS, the UK Thalassaemia Society, you can find all of these groups online. But if you want to support us, support OSCAR Birmingham, search for us on all social media platforms. And follow our website and our social media, and you'll see what events we've actually got. So when people are saying, where is OSCAR Birmingham? Actually, we've got galleries and galleries and galleries of photos of stuff that we've recently done. And then we've got upcoming stuff, and you can see what we do. Like, we're doing some great work, and our team is great right now. And the one thing I want to leave you with is, if you don't have the condition and you want to support and you want to give blood, do so. If you can't give blood, that's okay, because not everyone can give blood. But if you can't, you can support us in other ways. It doesn't always have to be money. People can volunteer their time, or you can apply for one of our jobs on the website. Paid, that being. Now, I think after it's all said and done, if you do live with the condition, just listen, stop waiting for death, because death might actually not come. And I thought I wasn't going to make it to this age. I'm actually 46 now. I just turned 46 last week.
Wow.
I never knew that I was going to be here this long. I thought I was bound to die. So I just urge all of you to just switch your mentality. Don't wait for death. Be dying to live. Make plans. Don't sit down and not make plans because you think you might not live long enough. Live your life. And also, don't be scared. If you're as angry as I was at God, listen, go and find whatever you need to find, in your way. I would always Bible bash people, but I'm not going to do that here. But, God is real, and the power of the blood, not just the power of the physical blood that you donate, but the power of the shedding of the blood, that spiritual blood transfusion has gotten me through many hard times. So, there is true healing. Some of it is physical and some of it is emotional. And if we can get to that place where we're wholly healed, not just relying on the NHS, but wholly, your emotions, your spirit. Listen, you ain't dying. You ain't dying. You're not dying. It's all right, man. We're going to live. We're going to do great things. And we've got great things ahead.
Yeah. Most definitely. Listen, guys. Man, this is Roger on the Edge Show. I am, and it's, guys, I can talk for ages. You guys know I can do a 5-hour marathon. But right about now, guys, I just need to sit down, have a good cup of coffee and reflect, because AJ is really, we appreciate you, bro. We appreciate you. We appreciate the time and you'll be seeing a lot more about sickle cell, guys, going forward. Man, really, people say convicted, or really am imprinted in my heart to really back this as a lead media platform in black media, is to really bring it to the fore. You know what I'm saying? And continue pushing out there. But listen, appreciate enough, man. You know what I'm saying? Man's only just behind me, man. 46 just behind me. But listen, appreciate just the mentality of, listen, living. You know what I'm saying? Living, and inspirational, bro. Inspiration, man. Because, people will be writing a book after this, man. Man's going to get pitched. He's going to get some Hollywood. Yo. But you say, but listen, thanks again, my brother.
Only if Ryan Coogler is prepared to direct.
Oh, okay. It's like that still. It's like that, man. Like that. Okay, cool. As long as I'm there to hold those scripts, I'll be like this. action, you know, one of the things. But listen, people, nothing but love. AJ, chair of OSCAR Birmingham, right next to me. Blessings.
Hey, this is your bishop. This is your bishop from Rock Solid. Thank you so much for watching us on YouTube. Thank you so much for clicking and subscribing and also sending these videos to other people as well. We are so hungry to get your support. So remember, check us out on our website, and also check us out on Insta and wherever you want to find us on Spotify. You can play us all day as well. And just make sure that you are supporting this channel, that we are developing our agenda towards music of Black origin, and that is gospel music with a message. So please walk with us on this journey. Bye now.